Can anybody hear us?
Hello.
There we are.
Oh,
Okay. Afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Worldbuilders Weekly. As always, we're happy to see you guys. Today we have little Skye Fae. Welcome, little Skye Fae. I will do some introductions. That's a new heifer-related word for y'all. But you come by every week, you get the latest news, hear about some special deals sometimes on the World Builders Market, get some nerdy tangents, and plenty of geeks doing good information. So, yeah, welcome back, guys. As you know, I'm Zay, the Director of Operations here at World Builders. We also have Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie, the Community Outreach Director. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands today. We're doing
and
big
Skye
hands
Fae.
today.
Welcome, Skye Fae.
And also welcome to Skye Fae.
yay! Happy to be here, guys.
I would also like if you could introduce the guy on your shoulder for the audience.
Yes, this is Hawk, my personal protector, for one of my cosplays, which I am dressed as. This is a dragon that I picked up from a local breeder who from Rocky Mountain Dragons. And yeah, he has crazy eyes. Also, it took me about
It sounded like you just made a noise.
6 months before he told me his name.
Wow.
So. Also, if you can see my screen for chat, there are 3 other dragons plus the lovely Drakess. If you can see them, I can introduce them too as well.
I definitely love you to introduce them. We also have Cinder joining us. Cinder, if you'd like to say a couple words.
Welcome, Cinder.
Okay, that's fine. Shy today. Yeah, let's hear about your dragons.
Yes. So this green one with the lovely sparkly wings is Lore. Fan of books, fan of telling stories, can go off and can just talk for ages. This one is Lockheed, my first dragon that I ever got, named after the hawk or Lockheed from the comic books for Kitty Pryde's friend. Actually, I got this dragon because in I want to say 2016, 2017, Fan X in Utah was trying to break the world record for number of superheroes in one room. And I was wearing a Kitty Pryde shirt that my dad had bought me for during the very first con that happened here in Utah. And they didn't want just shirts; they wanted actual outfitted superheroes to go in the room. And so I'm like, okay, I need dragon on my shoulder to make the shirt look legit, to look real. And so right before the deadline for signing up to go into for this world record, I'm like scanning the halls looking for some kind of dragon, and before I found this booth that sold dragons, and I'm like, what looks like this dragon that's like printed on my shirt? And she's like, oh, this one.
And thus Lockheed came home. So Lockheed in some ways is like an OG cosplayer with you. Like he's an original cosplay assistant.
Yes. He goes with me for every con, travels with me. Lilac really wants to play with this one. Tried to snatch it out of my hand. This one is Kier, one of my newest dragons. Hasn't been to a con since I bought him. Very quiet, kind of likes to keep to himself, but more of a watcher, just kind of hides in the shadows, keeps track of things.
Up on the top shelf. And then Lilac.
Yes, Lilac. Some of the chat may know this lovely puppy. And of course, you have to see.
Gotta show the dog.
Doggo.
Puppy. Everybody welcome Lilac.
That is a proper dog introduction.
That was a very good dog intro. Thank you.
Boop. Quite trying. Does that work?
Yeah, hi.
That is a good dog. Go, that's a good dog. But yeah, so we got some intros in. Amazing. It's amazing to meet your dragons. Officially heard a lot about them. So we have a couple trivia questions, and then we have a lot of cosplay questions, which I'm super excited about. Jamie, do you want to lead us into some trivia real quick?
We had another controversial trivia question this week. We sometimes when we write them, they get written and then rewritten and then kind of unwritten. And this one was a little bit up to interpretation. There were only 2 people in the J.R.R. Tolkien trilogy that gave the One Ring up voluntarily. Who are the 2 people? So a little more convoluted than we wanted, but the answer we were looking for was Bilbo and Sam, because they carried the ring for a notable time and went on to give it up voluntarily, not just that they were offered it, etc. But since it was a little wonky of a question, everybody's going to get an entry for this week. Yay! Yeah, that's trivia for last week. Is answer is Bilbo and Sam, but also everybody wins.
Yeah, I had different opinions on the answers to that question, because I mean, who was tested more than like Galadriel, right? With like the power that lay be, but yeah.
It was a controversial
Gandalf,
question,
right?
but in the way that I love, that's like geeks geeking out about geek stuff.
It was also one of our, if I recall, one of our highest replied to trivia questions. So thank you everyone who participated. You know, whether it was a bit convoluted or not, it is lovely to see you guys participating, even if you're like, what the hell is this question? We love it. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Next trivia question, as you guys all know and probably are tired of hearing me say, please put the new question into the DMs on any of our social media sites or questions at worldbuilders.org, not into the chat, so that everyone has a fair chance. In the TV show 2017, in the 2017 TV show Riverdale, the actor playing Archie's dad is best known for his role in what 1990s show? That is an interesting one. If any of you watched Riverdale and immediately connected it to the old comics of Archie, you're insane. But it's...
I looked at Riverdale and was like, oh, cute, it's Archie. I'm old.
It is such a weird...
So.
No, I loved the comics, did not make that connection immediately because they're nothing alike. It's super weird, but
there's Sabrina from the old comics as well. Like,
you know, that's true. That's true.
To interpretation for artistic liberty. For
the gritty reboot of Archie,
that's a good point.
Which is really kind of what Riverdale is.
Exactly what Riverdale is.
Oh, I love it. I hope that was their pitch.
So I guess the best way for us to start, sorry, I thought Cinder had something to add. Never mind. Is how did you start with the art of cosplay, Skye Fae? How'd you get into it?
So I didn't really know much about cosplay growing up. You know, you grow up, you hear about all these nerdy people who go up into the park dressed in armor, fighting, and like it didn't really connect. Like it was just a trope you see on TV until basically the first Comic-Con started coming to Utah, which is where I live. And it didn't really come to Utah until 2015, when I was already a teenager and a young adult trying to more aware of the world. And my first con was to FantasyCon, and which only came that one year, but it was filled with all of these armor makers, all of these geeky t-shirts, all of these really cool booths. And actually one of the booths was a corset maker, the maker of this corset actually, who we ran into and we started talking with. And that's where kind of like the spark of oh, we got to get outfits so that we can go to these cons together. And my dad worked on getting some armor from one of the armor booths for me and my brother, and we got this corset. Started talking with that booth operator a lot, and yeah, that's kind of where it started. And then me making my own costumes didn't really come into play until Star Wars The Force Awakens came out, where like the thoughts had been kind of in my mind, like, oh, going to cons dressed like this is fun. But when I saw Rey's outfit for the first time, like I spent the entire movie in the theater just like watching how her outfit moves, the way that the fabrics worked, the way that it fit with the desert structure, what kind of fabric she used. And we ended up going to see that movie like 3 or 4 times just because it was so fun. And that's kind of where it started. Like in my head, like I always was already thinking of, okay, if I go to DI and find pants that I can just cut off and tie together, or if I got like a really long fabric and make it really thin, then I could do this. And that's just kind of like where it started. And then I began to see more outfits that I wanted to be. I had fun when I go to cons and people would look at the staff that I made for Rey and go, "Oh my god, that's really cool!" And that just gave me such an adrenaline rush. And like, oh my, it's a craft that I was able to show off and people were able to appreciate, and it became addicting and it became so much fun. I absolutely threw myself into it, basically.
I definitely can relate the kind of mindset change when you start to, because I was very similar with Mad Max Fury Road. When I watched that, I was like, I want to cosplay the old motorcycle ladies. I want to cosplay the wives. I want to cosplay Furiosa. It was just, and I watched it with that same like, ooh, how could I do this? What material could I use for that? And your brain just starts to like see the whole world. It's like, where's the cosplay?
How can I recreate that?
Did you imagine like recreating it in a way where you sit down with like actual sewing materials and stuff? Or is it more incorporated where you
When I first started, I was, broke college students in a dorm room with like other girls. So I was limited in money and limited in space and supplies. So I thrifted a lot. There's this thrift store chain here in Utah called DI, Desert Industries, where you can just go and get random stuff and basically go to thrift stores, find cheap stuff, or go to stores and find stuff that looks approximately like what I'm going for, but also something that I could modify to fit the image that I'm looking for. And over time, as I started borrowing like my mom's sewing machine more and more, I actually like adopted it into my own personal stash, and so I can go to Joann's and actually start making stuff from scratch. And one of my most recent cosplays that I made was completely from scratch. Had to restart it like 3 or 4 times because I'm not used to it. But yeah, that's kind of like the progression of where I came from. Was like more and more of my outfits were less thrifted and altered to I can actually start making things on my own from scratch now, or at least attempt to.
That's amazing.
So there's a good question from chat related to that. What skills have you picked up for particular, like obviously sewing is such a broad thing. I know for me, I started with just kind of like simple seams, and then it's like, okay, maybe I can put a zipper in this one. What is there like a particularly memorable skill that you picked up for a particular costume?
Yeah. So from the first cosplay that I made, the Rey outfit from Force Awakens, I made the staff from hand, all from hand. And the way that I went about it was to create a painter's tape base around a steel conduit staff and add air dry clay over it. And air dry clay became kind of my go-to, prop modeling tool until I realized how heavy it became. But like that modeling, that sanding, hang on, the puppy got caught into the cord. It became kind of like the first skill that I really applied to sewing. Another one that I really worked on was my Legend of Zelda dress from Wind Waker was one where I kind of just changed the color and did an applique to add design pieces to it. And so that was another skill that I picked up as well. Actually, you guys want to see the staff? It's still one of my favorites.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We love show and tell. We love show and tell.
It's a bit kind of worn because I've had it for a few years, but it's held up really well.
That is beautiful.
Has.
The detail
and
is
it's
gorgeous.
so detailed. I wasn't expecting the
this
level
looks
of detail.
like you took on a lathe and made it out of wood.
Yeah.
But it's air dry clay, especially
Wow.
this is my favorite part. Like it took me a few attempts to get it to look quite like this, and then you can kind of see it's falling a little bit apart.
But it really looks like a beat up hunk of junk metal from space staff. Like she had, like you really captured that gritty feel of the films with it. And with a medium like air dry clay, it so easily can be like cartoony and bubbly and the wrong sort of like texture. So well done. It looks really good. Chat does want to know how many people you've beaten with it.
There's a precise number in there.
Pleading the fifth. Cinder, will you take that can you take that answer?
I would have beaten more people with it, but because of the material that I've created it with, I worry that like one good whack will kind of shatter it a little bit. So I'm
more concerned for the staff than the person, though.
Oh yeah, the person will be fine. Staff I spent hours on. In fact, after I first made
and a person's a person. I mean,
they'll heal. After I first made it, Jamie, this guy came out and I was sitting with it on my lap, just taking a break, and it wasn't as nice as it is now. That was just the first draft that I had, and said that he was a prop maker, and he was like, "This looks really legit," and I'm like,
Yeah, that has to be a great compliment. Jamie has a question here kind of related to that. What is like a dream tool, piece of equipment or resource kind of thing that you would love to have to add to your cosplay?
Right now, it's a good big 3D printer. Because I'm trying to get, like, I'm noticing that there are opportunities for 3D printers around. Like my brother has a couple of really small 3D printers he uses for D&D minis. The local library has one as well. But I'm running into a problem where some of the pieces I want, like I'm trying to redo this as a 3D printer so I can actually hit people with it or hit things. Not really, but But I've run into things where it's actually some of the pieces that I'm looking for are too big for the base, and so that's kind of like my dream equipment at the moment, where I can actually print some of these larger pieces and do it myself without having to rely on other people or
When it comes to cosplay, I'm curious. I think there's kind of different levels of like purist versus like, oh, this is kind of up for like interpretation to character costume. Where do you kind of fit in with that?
I try not to be too pure, but as a creator, sometimes you look at the at the reference art so much that you're like, I want it to be exactly like that, and I have to remind myself periodically to take a step away. This is a cartoon. You can actually add texture, and it's not going to look exactly right. But like I consider myself kind of on the amateur level of cosplay still. Where I'm still just kind of getting my feet under me. I'm still learning new techniques. My cosplay closet is growing, of course, but I'm not like anywhere near some of those like professional cosplayers and levels of skill. And one of the things, like in design wise, I try to think of what the textures would look like in the world that they would be living in, and try to interpret off of that, and also kind of create my own in one of the ones that I'm working on is trying to create my own like fun, kind of deviate a little bit from the material or the source material. I want to go off and experiment a little bit with those people who can do like genre bending cosplays.
Very, very cool, and something to look forward to, because some of those like crossover cosplays of different genres are like, I appreciate the purists, but I love the creativity, and especially what you just mentioned, you know, looking at that source material and really kind of like immersing yourself in like, well, what would this texture look like, or what would this fabric look like, and kind of extrapolating feels like such a integral part of the creative process. Is there a character or a show or anything specifically, like what is your favorite world to play in, or what, you know, character to come from a world?
Can you rephrase that a little bit?
Yes.
Or be more specific?
So basically, who's your favorite, like what is your favorite cosplay world and / character to cosplay because of the world they come from? Does that make sense?
Right. So there is a big answer, but I will do I'll do a quick side answer first. I guess the Ray would be kind of the one that I would go for, because I have done her outfit for all 3 movies. And I actually like worked really hard with a bunch of other at the same time as other Rey cosplayers to finish her Rise of Skywalker outfit before the movie came out. And it was so cool, like watching how everybody's like sharing info about like little screenshots that they took about textures and stitching. And it was really fun to be able to watch that and do it at the same time as them. But favorite cosplayer to like step into, or favorite cosplay to step into, would have to be Ari from Kingkiller Chronicles. Like the mentality that I step into when I'm in there, and reactions that I see when people recognize who I am, they're actually some of my favorites to see me around.
That's really cool. I promise that wasn't like a leading question, but it's cool to hear how you kind of step into those characters.
Yeah, also not a leading question. Generally don't know, because I feel like when I do garb, it's like Ren Fair totally kind of, for me, feels a bit separate almost. In the, you know, they're not really from a world sometimes, but I feel like sometimes in like literature, there's kind of these different realms of fandom between like sci-fi and fantasy. And when you go to like cons, do you feel like there's a kind of difference in the community, or is it just like a big old group like of sci-fi, fantasy, you know, or like movie comics?
The cons that I've been to have been pretty open. I usually go to FanX, which is the big Comic-Con in Utah, and there really isn't a division. I can go around and I could see a Harley Quinn talking to a Jack Frost or Elsa, and there's so many different genres and worlds kind of intermixed, and it's really fun and to see everybody kind of interact. And I was dressed as a Legend of Zelda princess, and I saw a cosplayer friend that I recognized from Instagram wearing a Yzma from Cusco.
I love it.
And I was just like, oh, or I ran into another friend who was a Power Ranger, and it's more of a bonding than a separation that you see, because everybody's like, oh, you look awesome. You are from a fandom that I enjoy. I'm not dressed as this fandom right now, but I belong to that fandom, and I am now your friend.
Yeah.
But I have been. Or go on, Jamie.
I was going to say, it's just one of my favorite things to go out to dinner during convention and look at the table next to you and see like Rey with a Power Ranger, with Elsa, with like, you know, somebody from Overwatch, like just all having, you know, dinner together. It's just one of my favorite things.
My friends during the last con that I was able to go to before, you know, pandemic shut down, we were all 3 from Legend of Zelda day 1, but then the second day I was Rey, my friend was the 13th Doctor from Doctor Who, and my other friend was Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Mm-hmm. And like it's really fun. Just go out those different ways and see how different people react.
I would love to imagine that you guys do the same thing for Halloween and just all get together as different cosplay characters and hang out. That's the ideal, I think.
Oh,
The dream.
absolutely. I miss cons. I miss dressing up.
Yeah, I mean, we're a year through pandemic, COVID, all of that. Obviously, it's impacted cosplay. Have you been kind of taking this time to like work behind the scenes? Has cosplay sort of adapted to pandemic? Have you been able to do events or anything in the last year, or is it really just like waiting for those cons to come back?
I did break quarantine a couple of times last year to go to smaller cons. One, both of which I entered into their cosplay competition. One of them was to a con called Wizarding Days, and I went and won, I think, second place through my Zelda outfit.
Oh,
And
nice.
then over the summer, I worked on creating a Aerith from Final Fantasy VII outfit. And I took that to Evermore, which is a local theatrical park here in Utah, which is really fun. And I think I won second place also in that one, second or third for my Aerith.
That's a big
awesome.
congrats. That's super cool. Is there any like sorry, virtual adaptations to cosplay that you've kind of like witnessed or gone to or anything like that?
I've seen some people do kind of virtual cosplays where I've even like participated in it, where we basically show off our outfits in photos, send photo shoots. That's kind of one of the adaptations that I've seen a lot of people have done. Was a lot of cosplayers have been leaning more heavily on photo shoots and their Instagram or their whatever platform that they are using at the time for their cosplay to kind of help use it as an outlet for their creativity. So yeah, one of them was from Brianna White, who's a streamer, and he voiced Aerith in the Final Fantasy VII remake. She held a kind of celebratory convention of sorts digitally, and one of the sections that she had was a cosplay showcase or cosplay contest where they just showed all of these different submissions that they received from cosplayers virtually, and she got to react to all of them pretty live, which is also fun to see.
Yeah, that is. And now that you mention it, I remember Sati and Phoenix also did a couple like I don't know, remember what she called them, thirst trap something cosplays, but because that's the team. But yeah, that's really interesting to see how people kind of keep their creativity alive. And I'd imagine having the space to take more photos and stuff just kind of adds to that, repertoire and stock of things you can draw on. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that when cons start coming back, the cosplay quality that you see at the cons might like go up a couple of notches, just because out of desperation to have time to really put forth creativity. People have been like working on cosplays and have actually been able to like, in my mind, go in and improve some of the quality instead of relying on con crunch to squeeze in those last few details.
Yeah, that's definitely something I didn't think about. Hopefully, I'd like to see some really beautiful outfits that people have, dumped their heart and soul into.
Yeah, I'm hoping to squeeze out a couple more, or at least one more before I go to my next con. Hopefully this fall will be safe again.
Can you give us any like sneak peek teaser trailers? What's on the upcoming cosplay list for Skye Fae?
So when I was doing Aerith, I accidentally ordered two of the same dresses that I was going to use to modify. So I thought, oh, well, might as well do this one in the style that I was going for, which was from the original game, and then do this one as a really high quality remake version.
Nice.
So that one's going to be next on my list. And then also in my I've started gathering materials, and I'm still kind of working on getting to the point where I'm going to actually tackle the project. Is the I want to make Katra from the new Shiva reboot.
Oh yeah.
Her season 3 or 4 outfits.
She is a very fun character, and I'm excited to see the sort of like dual quality cosplay. Like I think the photos will turn out really cool, where it's like this one was made to be sort of honor the original video game version, and here's my like high res version. It feels like the photos are just going to be choice from that.
Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one. And I thought about like sticking to like the remake, kind of true to the form, and then I thought, why don't I just go at it? Like, why don't I add flowers to the dress and just make it floral and ethereal and aerith as much as I possibly can, and just have fun with this outfit. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing like what comes out of this blank slate that I'm what comes out of my head, basically, instead of using references.
So you kind of organize like cosplay or group cosplays, things like that, or participate. Where is the kind of place for people to start? What do they keep in mind if they're kind of doing those things?
Sorry, you cut out there. Can you repeat that?
Jamie, could you repeat that for me in case?
So in terms of like cosplay groups and like getting photographers, all those kinds of things, where do you recommend people start? Or, do you have any tips for folks who want to cosplay in a group or like meet up with other cosplayers, that kind of thing?
I would say like your friends are huge. If you can convince your friends to dress up, those are always really fun to go together because you know each other, you can coordinate your outfits. But if you want to get out to like cosplay with other people, there are Facebook groups all over the place. Like there is a Utah cosplay group, and I think that's what it's called on Facebook. You can also, if you have cosplay friends that who you've never really met, who you have kind of think we'll go to the same cons, or if you've met a few people at cons before and you go, hey, do you want to do a collaboration? I found that a lot of cosplayers are pretty open to making new friends, especially if you're in the same, like, if you're into the same things. It's kind of like a great community bonding thing where you can pretty much go up to anybody and just say, hey, I like your outfit. And if you're friendly enough, you can, or if you're a good relationship enough, I feel like you can just ask them, hey, do you want to work on this project with me?
Yeah, for sure. And that I think is, you mentioned earlier some of the group cosplays and just the community, the sharing of like before the movie's even out, people exchanging different information and ideas. And I think that's a really cool, unique thing about the cosplay community is it's really, it seems very supportive from the outside. Like people are sharing, their tips and tricks instead of being like, oh, I have this arbitrary way to make warbler feathers or whatever. So I think that's cool.
I feel like there are a lot of like gatekeeper cosplayers who say, oh, you can't play that, you're not the right body shape, or you're not good enough to play that character. But in my experience, and maybe it's because of the place where I live, where I just haven't really experienced that kind of gatekeeping mentality. But for people who really do kind of want to find resources, like the Ray cosplay community on Facebook. Facebook, I feel like, has a lot of good groups where they share details about little cosplays, or you can ask questions, or you can go to a more broader like cosplay community in your own city if they're just search around for those kind of groups on Facebook, and you can just say, hey, are there any opportunities? Or some people I've seen say, hey, I need cosplayers of this type to come help shoot a video real quick. I haven't participated in that because I've kind of been focusing on other stuff, but it was really cool just to kind of get introduced to those communities and just see how open people are and how willing they are. In fact, like one friend was missing instructions for a pattern that she was making, And I was like, oh, let me see if I can find you something. And so I went to a Facebook community and was like, hey, my friend needs this pattern, and does anybody have it? And then like I had 5 people show up saying, hey, I have these extra patterns. Do you want me to mail it to you?
That's amazing.
Or do you want me to scan them for you so that you can have access to them? And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is interesting to hear that there are those kind of two sides to it, though, because I have heard of like the kind of gatekeeping and more negative side of it, but I do feel like there's that core group, like a really strong community that has each other's backs. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of funny because it's like, who looks like an anime character? Unless your eyes are half the size of your face, no one should be playing any character that exists.
like put in those contacts that make your eyes look bigger.
Yeah.
With the makeup. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'm firmly in the party where like, if you want to dress up, if you see this character and you connect with that character so much that you want to try stepping in their shoes at least a little bit, like, go for it. You're instantly a cosplayer. Like, I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm saying you're dressing up, you're a cosplayer. You buy a costume from the costume store and you wear it and you're like, hey, I enjoy being this character. You're a cosplayer. That is my firm belief. And if any cosplayers are watching this and go like, no, I don't believe in that, like, well, that's your own opinion.
That is not our officially sanctioned opinion, which is, if you're cosplaying, you're a cosplayer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Closet cosplays are completely valid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, there's also like, I think there's also a problem where there's definitely gatekeeping and some kind of negativeness that goes towards like the Black community that wants to cosplay. But I mean, when most of the industry pumps out like characters that are white skin, I mean, there's not a lot to choose from. So I agree with you, Skye Fae. If somebody finds something in a character that they relate to try to take that experience away from someone is pretty shitty. So let them lift each other up, instead.
Let's enjoy things together. Let's not put somebody down for not enjoying something. Let's celebrate these things that we enjoy and not hide from it. Yeah. I'm an adult. I have a dragon on my shoulder.
I mean,
it's awesome.
And you've already kind of shared some really good experiences that you've had in the community. What's another like really cool pinnacle memory for you in cosplay?
So top of the line would be every time I wear my Jin Urso outfit, something generally good happens. So I put together Jin Urso before Rogue One came out, the Star Wars movie, and I stare at these screenshots, this trailer, paused on my computer for hours so I can like get approximately. And so I'm so excited. I'm wearing it, and I run into like three other Jin Ursos during that con, and I go to this Star Wars panel where people from the Star Wars group are talking and they're hosting, and I managed to like squeeze up and sit up front, and I'm talking with another couple of cosplayers who are also sitting up front, and they're from the Star Wars, the animated series, Rebels. And I'm just talking with them, chatting with them, and then suddenly I hear Pablo Hidalgo just burst out laughing, and he's like, oh my god, that's awesome. And I look up and he's looking at me, and I'm like, he recognizes me. And so I set up a panel, and I'm still kind of riding high on it, and we get to the Q&A section, and someone comes up and says, hey, can you pull up a model of Jin Urso's outfit so us cosplayers can get a good look at it so that we can start working on it? And he's like, yeah, and while I'm doing that, can I have this Jin Urso cosplayer in the front here stand up so you guys can all see how cool she is? And so I stand up to this packed room. There's probably like 200 or 300 people in this room to them. And I like show off a little bit. And then I sit down and I'm just like blushing. And I'm like, this is awesome.
That's like such a cool moment of recognition too, because it wasn't like you were like, hey, what do you think of my costume? It was like you were just sitting there doing your thing and then check it out. That's awesome.
Like, look, this is a person who cosplay a character that isn't even out, and she looks awesome. Show it off, girl.
That's
That has
so
to
cool.
be similar to winning like a first place prize at a competition, like just getting the stamp of approval.
Yes, getting the stamp of approval of one of the creators or one of the people who are like high up there is awesome. And another time I was wearing Junior, so it was after the movie came out, and Gary Whitta was out there, and he's one of the writers for the script for Rogue One. And I hear Generso, Jen out of the crowd, and suddenly he's there, and he like introduces himself, and he like wants to take a picture of me or with me, and he's like, I'm finding all the Genersos I can.
That's awesome.
Which is also like a really high, awesome moment for me. Like a writer for this movie that's really big, really awesome, just came out of the crowd to talk to me.
And from Gary's side, because I've had been privileged to chat with Gary a few times. He's been on Worldbuilders Weekly before, but he genuinely geeks out for cosplayers. Like as a writer, it is also such a high compliment to see somebody take your character and bring them to life. And you've mentioned it a couple of times in how you like how cosplaying isn't just about what you're wearing, but how you step into that role or how you relate to that character. Can you tell us more about like your process or you know how that works for you?
So I do it mostly with Ari, because I personally connected to that character when I read the books so much. Like there's one other character that I remember so vividly, like seeing myself on a page, and Ari was a part of me that I hadn't even realized that I'd known about until I read her. And so when I put her on, there's this kind of process as I look more like her, where suddenly I feel more of her mentality in my head. Like I look at the world kind of differently, and I reposition things a little bit so that they're just right, and I step daintily through the crowd, and I'm there's something that goes on in my brain when I become this particular character where it's hard to describe, but there's it really is just stepping into her shoes and seeing the world through her eyes, and it's showing up or showing more of this part of me that usually doesn't really get to show off or get to come out a lot, I guess.
It's very, very cool to hear, because I know for me, I never even really thought about it. I haven't done a ton of cosplay, but I don't think I could cosplay a character that I just do not have like no relation to in any way. Like I have to have some facet of me reflected in that character to feel like I could go out there and like really cosplay.
Absolutely. And maybe there's something where like you have it on where you finally go, oh, I'm really cool. This armor is awesome. And now I feel powerful. So maybe it's like stepping into it that makes you connect to the character too.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely relate to that. When I have on my leather armor and stuff, and even though it's not from an actual fantasy book or anything, it still gives me that sense of like, I know my character, and this character is like a warrior, and I feel like a warrior, and it's very empowering when you feel like you really connect to it. And I always kind of think of it back to like when you're a little kid, and kind of going back to Halloween or just playtime, and you feel like you put together this like outfit, maybe you'll see like a picture 10 years later and you're like, that looks so silly. But at the time, you felt like, yeah, I'm this perfect like representation of this pirate, and I'm conquering the seas,
right,
or something like that. It awakens that like kind of child like wonder,
it's wearing like a sequined dress and rain boots and saying like yar, and every adult is like no, and the kid is just like like you feel it. Kids cosplaying is one of my absolute favorite things in the world. I don't know if you've seen any particularly adorable kid cosplays, but like seeing a tiny Ray run up to a full-size Ray cosplayer is just like,
Yeah.
Oh, that I have so many pictures of little tiny rays coming up to me, and
Aw.
it warms my heart every time when I see little kids dressed like me at the time going,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like you're the inspiration. You're the like Disney princess equivalent in that moment to those kids. They want to grow up and be like you. That's so cool and pure.
Skye Fae, does your family ever participate in the kind of cosplay realm with you?
yeah. So I kind of mentioned this before when I was creating this kind of armor outfit. My dad and my brother kind of have a armor set as well that have kind of a red theme to tie us all together. And when we dress up and kind of go out together, we can't get like 10 steps before another person stops us to take a picture. And there's a funny story where we were taking pictures with these models of the trolls from the Hobbit movies. There's a whole line to go in, and we're standing in line, and across the way is a booth that's hyping up the movie Chappie, which came out a few years ago with the robots. And he's like, "Oh, you guys look awesome. After you're done, can you come take a picture with Chappie over here, and we'll give you free swag?" And we're like, "Yeah." And
Yeah.
so we go from that booth, we immediately go to the other, and they give us like Chappie shirts.
Nice.
It's fun. And then another time we managed to get my dad's girlfriend to dress up kind of like in a really awesome outfit, and I had a staff in my car that I think my brother gave me, and so I ran out and grabbed it. And then she also had her niece at the time, who we bought a quick little elf outfit, and so she became our ranger. And so one of the pictures that I sent you, Jamie, was of all of us all together, full outfits, and going through the crowd like that was so much fun. Because we have my brother, who's the paladin of the group, and my dad, the fighter. We have the mage, and we have our little half elf ranger, and then me, the assassin with dragon familiars.
That's so cool because like it's like a group experience of that embodiment. Like everybody gets to kind of step into those bigger shoes and play a role together, but you're with people who are so safe and comfortable. That's really awesome. And I think it's, similar to how you're talking about if you can convince your friends to dress up. I know that my favorite cosplay ever was when we just like we just strong-armed like a whole ton of our friends into doing a group Team Fortress cosplay. And it was just it was like, nope, you're gonna be a sniper, you can do it, put your hat on. And some of the most reluctant, like, oh, this is gonna be dorky, ended up having the absolute most fun running around as characters. So I think community is so important to cosplay.
I don't think I've ever met a cosplayer who also gets like their family involved. So that just has to be so special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think I've been smiling super hard through this, and my cheeks are starting to hurt.
Same here.
What weirds me out is that Cinder is also just smiling next to us, but I can't see Cinder because I'm only looking at chat and us.
Every time
Yeah.
I glance over, there's a good smiling Cinder. He probably has so many stories, to share about his own cosplay.
Yeah, I mean, you can see though, like he has a mask on, so he's a big Mary Robinette Quall fan. Little known fact about Cinder. But I think he's read like all her books. He talks about it nonstop. But he's COVID conscious over there with his MRK swag. But we had somebody in the chat, Crimshot, was talking about how cosplaying kind of looks a bit like you dress the part and you be the part, like you embody the character. You were talking about that a little bit with like being Ari, but with like Ren and stuff too, do you feel like you kind of are yourself dressed as this character and you feel empowered, or do you also feel like you kind of, when it comes to like playing like Ren or something, kind of take on a bit of their persona as well?
I think it's a mix. It depends on like where I am or how I feel at the time. Also like who I'm with a little bit. But when I'm walking around the convention floor and people are talking to me, or if I have friends around me, I feel like I'm more actually myself. And if I'm like marching through the crowd and I have the serious face and I have a staff in my hand or a gun at my holster, and then I feel like I'm probably a little bit more of the character that I'm emulating. Or if I'm Zelda at the time and I have gloves, and so I'm like afraid they're pure white and I'm afraid of like dirtying them a little bit, and so I like have people open the door for me, and then I become a little bit more regal. It's actually a little harder for me to be the Zelda because I'm like, I want to push open the door myself, but I can't.
Yeah, I mean, when your highness needs something, people better drop their stuff and get it. That's all I have to say about that. But
That's so funny.
I would love to do a lightning round with you, little Skye Fae. I'm sure you've joined this and seen those. But just so everyone can get to know you a little bit, if that's all right.
Go for it.
All right. I'll start one off, Jamie, and you can pick up whatever you'd like. First one on the list. If you could have any drink right now, beverage of choice, alcoholic or non, which one would you pick?
So I'm not really an alcohol fan, can't really get over the taste. So if I'm not drinking water, I think I would go with lemonade, particularly my mom's recipe of lemonade that she makes homemade. There's a picture down.
Flex.
There's a picture downstairs that's calling my name afterwards.
Oh man. That's like a fairy tale.
I'm not super jealous.
My mom's lemonade recipe is so refreshing. Like, that's amazing.
Well, if you talk to her, she is very proud of her recipe. Like you don't really find the recipe in books or online or anything, because she came up with the ratios of the sugar and lemon and water all by herself. And so like she's constantly like tasting other lemonade and like, oh, that's too sugary, or oh, that's too and mine is better. And I think that's just
so
kind
mom
of
and so amazing.
I love it.
Oh, honey, don't drink that. We have lemonade at home. No.
Poison yourself.
If it isn't my mom's lemonade, then it'd be like flavored lemonades with like syrups or fresh fruit from restaurants, because those always taste really good.
Those are really good too. All right, so speaking of restaurant, you're getting takeout or you get to go back to real person dining for some magical evening. What is your meal of choice?
Ooh.
Or someone gets to cook for you?
I do like steak or chicken wings. Chicken wings are generally my favorites.
Do you have a favorite sauce on those chicken wings?
I grew up having the sauce, and I think it was like French's mild buffalo sauce, and it's discontinued. And it took us forever to find like an alternative, because that was the sauce that I grew up on. That's the sauce that we always went for. And I think they switched companies, and so it's under a different name, like McCormick now. But that was the chicken wing sauce that I absolutely adored. It was a special meal growing up.
Chris Sagan says, how do you like your steak, Fae?
I like it medium.
Perfect. There's no judgment here.
A little bit pink, not too well done, not too bloody, but kind of on the medium to medium rare-ish kind of side.
Amazing. What would you suggest as a really great read for anyone? What's like your favorite book?
Really great read. Let's see.
Just swivels around.
So a favorite book right now that I read. I really like Erin Morganson's reading prose. Starless Sea and The Night Circus are both really pretty, really just gorgeously written books that I enjoy. And it's kind of like the type of book that you would read next to a window while it's raining outside kind of vibe.
Good mood. Yeah.
Very good.
That sounds kind of distinct, similar to the Slow Regard a little bit, kind of like a distinct mood throughout the book.
Like you have to have like the right setting in order to like truly immerse yourself in it. I think that would be my favorite at the moment. I'm trying to think. Oh, the one that I recently read, and it's kind of hidden by Mr. Drakis over there, was Deadly Education by Naomi Novik.
Kelvic, yeah.
Yeah, I've got the book after her panel here. Yeah, that one. And it was so much fun. I didn't want it to end. And so when it ended, I was very sad.
There's
like,
more
oh,
coming out though. She's writing more.
That's right. That was a cool book. I think we did some cool book plates with Julia for that book. So also the cover tactile of the cover is so satisfying. It's like gold foil and suede. It's so gorgeous. But yeah. Janie, do you want to take another question?
Sure. What do you recommend I pull up on my streaming TV service of choice this evening when I kick back with my snacks?
Think of all of the shows that I've watched. I get distracted with the puppy a lot, so I'm kind of in between shows. But She-Ra from Netflix, very good one. Comfort one, I guess. Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Oh, okay.
I've never heard of that one.
It's on what is it again? Hulu.
Oh.
Yeah, it's on Hulu, and it is basically the premise is this girl had a headache, so she went to go get an MRI during an earthquake, and it gave her the power to hear people's inner thoughts through the power of song.
Oh
my goodness, that's such a specific.
But
it sounds amazing.
It has amazing singers, amazing voice actors, but it also isn't afraid to hit on heavy subjects like terminally dying family members, or racism, or women in women in tech fields, and it has me that series has me crying and then laughing within a minute of each other. So it's really good at balancing and tells really good stories, and it has awesome singing.
Good music.
That sounds like a great show that I might need to check out. I have a hard time getting into new shows sometimes, but
do it. It's on its second
so
season.
If you
through now, I think.
If you could sit down and have a conversation with anyone, real or imagined, alive or dead, who would you choose?
For some reason, it's a weird answer, but the name that keeps coming to mind is Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians. I really want to know what kind of things he's seen, or the places he's been to randomly, or the pranks that he's pulled because nobody else could see him. And
I like that one.
That would be, I think he would be really fun to talk to, with a lot of enthusiasm, and just could tell so many different stories.
I like that one. I feel like he would just have a very you could just sit and listen to him tell stories for hours kind of personality. Like he's going to be standing on a chair at some point and
standing on his staff and making snowflake diagrams narrating of what happened, and
definitely got some Bard in there. Yeah. All right, we're coming to the end of time. Skye Fae, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Where can people find you?
So
where would you like people to find you?
So I am on pretty much all the socials. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm most active on Instagram, but you guys can check out the other ones because I post there as well. At Skye Fae Cosplay is my handle. Yeah, I trying to think if I had any others, but Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter would be the place to find me and check me out.
All right, check out Skye Fae, everyone. As y'all know, we are here every week. If you have any suggestions for favorite creators, authors, gamers, any other geeks that you'd like to have on the show, please hit us at questions@worldbuilders.org. Again, thank you for joining us. What a lovely view into the world of cosplay. And you called yourself an amateur, which, I mean, we'll have to have you back in 10 years when you've been really working at it for a long time.
Yeah, my skill level would at least go up one level or so by in that time.
We'll have you back and you'll be like, I'm amateurs, cosplayers. But yeah, thank you also, Jamie, for joining us this week. And we will see you guys next time.
Yeah,
what is our magic word? Skye Fae, why don't you choose our magic ending word this week?
Cosplay moose.
Cosplay moose. Cosplay moose. Either a cosplaying moose or a moose cosplay.
Or a moose cosplaying as another moose.
Oh, sure.
Thank
there
you,
it is.
everybody.
All right, thank you guys. Bye.